it's a 4 hour drive. and then he's going to pray.
Good evening. This meeting of New Philadelphia City Council will now come to order. Would it please rise and remain standing for the invocation and pledge of allegiance? Mr. Rippeth.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would you join me in prayer? Father God in heaven, we thank you for your magnificence, Lord, and we're reminded of that so much on days like today where we got to watch a total solar eclipse and are reminded of your power, your wisdom, and that we're not really in charge much of anything, Lord, that you are. And we thank you for that because you're much better at it than we are. Lord, I would just ask that you continue to grace this city, to continue to bless us the way that you have. We'd ask that you just keep a hedge of protection against any kind of harm or injury to our city officials, our city workers, those who are out doing the public service work that they do. And Father, I'd ask for you to be a part of this meeting tonight. I invite your presence in, that you would give every member here wisdom and discernment in the decisions that we're about to make, that everybody would be treated with grace and with dignity within the walls of this building. And Father, we just want to bring glory to your name in all that we do. And in the name of your Son, Jesus, I ask this. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you and good evening, everyone. We'll start our meeting with roll call.
Mr. Kreinbell.
Here.
Mr. Lanzer.
Here.
Mr. Pace.
Present.
Mrs. Ramos. Mr. Rippon.
Present.
Mr. Simile.
Present.
Mr. Walker.
Present.
All right, let it be known that Mrs. Ramos and Mr. Fader are excused from our meeting tonight. Agenda, everybody's had a chance to review the agenda. Do we have any additions to the agenda tonight? Hearing none, entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Mr. President, I would move that we approve tonight's agenda.
All right, need a second. All right, thank you, Mr. Walker. Discussion by administration, council, roll call.
Mr. Rippon.
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes.
Mr. Kreinbell.
Yes.
Mr. Lanzer.
Yes.
Mr. Pace.
Yes.
Mr. Simile.
Yes.
All right, the agenda has been approved. Minutes, has everybody had a chance to review the minutes from our last council meeting?
Yes.
Are there any additions or corrections? Hearing none, entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make the motion.
All right, thank you, Mr. Craneville. Need a second?
I'll second.
All right, thank you, Mr. Pace. And discussion by administration, council, roll call.
Mr. Kreinbell.
Yes.
Mr. Pace.
Yes.
Mr. Lanzer.
Yes.
Mr. Rippon.
Yes.
Mr. Simile.
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes.
All right, minutes have been approved. Correspondence, Ms. Courtwright.
To council and administration from Assistant to the Service Director Jonalee Furnett, dated April 1st, 2024. This is an email titled Hydrant Flushing Schedule. To council and administration from Income Tax Administrator for the City Carly Luce, dated April 1st, 2024. This is the income tax report for the month of March 2024. To council and administration from Executive Administrative Assistant to the Mayor, J.B. Bailey, dated April 1st, 2024. This is the March 2024 end of month report for the Mayor's office. To council and administration from Assistant to the Service Director, Jonalee Furnett, dated April 4th, 2024. This is the April Board of Zoning Appeals meeting minutes. To council and administration from Mayor Day, dated April 8th, 2024. This is an email titled Tuscarawas Valley Farmers Market Event Invitation, with that as the attachment. And to council clerk from Treasurer Gerber, dated April 8th, 2024. This is the City of New Philadelphia Investment and Savings Report for March of 2024. And to council and administration from Mayor Day, dated April 8th, 2024. This is a letter to the Goshen Township trustees as well as the mayor's report. And that concludes correspondence for this evening, Mr.
All
President.
right, thank you, Ms. Courtwright. We'll move into our administrative reports. First up, Mayor Day.
Thank you, Mr. President, council members, fellow administrators, and guests. A couple of things I want to highlight from the report I sent you earlier today. April 15th is the scheduled start date for a major construction project at Harry Clever Field. The project will be fully paid for by the federal and state grants. It will relocate and reconstruct the taxiway that is parallel to the main runway at the airport. To pay for the $2.8 million project, the city received a $2.6 million grant from the FAA. and a $144,606 matching grant from ODOT Aviation. The project will be done in 4 phases. All airfield lighting and the PAPIs will be out of service during the construction period, and the main grass runways will be closed periodically. ProAv, the airport manager, will issue all applicable notices to aviators about the runway closures. The annual Fly-In Pancake Breakfast fundraiser by the EAA Chapter 1077 on Sunday, May 26th should not be affected by this project. It should be able to go on as usual. A letter signed by myself, City Safety Director Greg Popham, and Fire Chief Jim Parrish has been sent to the Goshen Township trustees, informing them of a cost increase should they decide to renew the township's fire and EMS contract with the city in 2027. New Philadelphia's taxpayers have been subsidizing the fire and EMS services to the township for many years. The level of service by our fire department to the township is identical to the level of service received by New Philadelphia residents. Therefore, the cost per call should be the same. There are 2 years remaining on the current contract, which has the township paying the city $180,000 per year. That would increase to $537,691.87 annually, based on a per call cost of $1,122.53. Fire Chief Parrish came up with those figures. Last year, the New Philadelphia Fire Department answered 479 calls in Goshen Township. We sent the cost increase notice early to give the trustees time to inform their constituents and plan for future fire and EMS service to the township. That concludes my report. Any questions?
Any questions for the mayor?
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Mayor Day. Next up, Service Director, Mr. McAbeer.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, everyone. Just an add-on to the taxi lane. There'll be, during the construction period, which will last roughly 90 days, there'll be no night flying at all during that time because of the lights being out. That's the only thing I wanted to add that forgot to bring up there. Also, last week we had the Franklin Square Phase 2 bid opening. I was happy to see that did have 3 very competitive bids. Woodford Construction, which did Phase 1, also gained the bid for Phase 2. It was just under, about 3% under, if you do the math. Engineer estimate was $1,082,117. Woodford Construction came in at $1,049,518. And also with what Julie had said about the mapping, I want to thank John Lee Fernat, which everybody had gotten that. I wish we'd have did that 30 years ago. Helps explain it a lot more than what, going this road to that road. So if anybody gets a chance to say thank you to John Lee, she came up with that. I just gave her a task, hey, can you come up with something? And she did. And I think it's easy to see what's going on there. Like we said, we started flushing last night. I know I've got some calls already. Did the south side, and some of that pulled over from the northwest, because we got some calls from the northwest, believe it or not. But I believe that's from, we've been valve exercising, we've never did in the city for years. Bought a valve exercising machine, and through that, found some valves that were closed that needed opened up. So instead of that hammer and stuff that you'd get sometimes when you'd shut something, I know the south side, we found 4 of them in the last year. So again, that flush completely different than it would have had in the past. So I believe that hammering, and also, I might add, there's no leaks today, and that's typically what you have on the south side. We usually have one rear up and go after we flush down there. But I know there's 4 valves there. After talking with Mr. DeVault, he found in the last year that were closed. That, you go out to a leak, you might have 10 valves off, and you forgot to turn one of the valves back on. So again, they found 4 of them in on the south side alone in the last year. So I also want to thank those guys also. And also, late last week there, I'd gotten an email from Councilman Ramos about the Kent State Connector Trail. And I was out Thursday afternoon all Friday for some minor surgery, and came back in this morning, late afternoon, for had some follow-up today. So if anybody had any questions on that on the email, I'll be happy to answer at this time.
Any Any question, Mr. McAbeer?
Mr. President, I would just like to thank your office for that map and putting out that list. That was a huge help for me.
Yeah, and
I think
yes,
it
absolutely.
worked very, very well,
Yeah.
so, great work.
Thank you. And I'll make sure I share that with John Lee, because
Please
she
do.
took the heavy lift on that one for sure.
Good deal.
Great, thank you, Mr. McAbeer. Move on to Safety Director, Mr. Popham.
Mr. President, I have no report. However, I would like to piggyback on the mayor's letter to Goshen Township. The fire chief wanted me to pass along that, to come up with the number that he did, he just didn't guess at it. He has a formula and a process that he went through, and if anyone would like to see that, he's more than willing to show how he arrived at the numbers that he did. And secondly, I would like to invite each and every one of you to the police department, to the fire department, and for you to spend some time with them, so you can have a little bit of an idea of what's going on out there. Because just sitting here, you don't have a clue. I mean, or you may have a little bit of a clue, but it is totally different than what it used to be. It is just, and what these guys and gals go through daily with life and death situations, the majority of people don't have a clue that that goes on, and it goes on daily. And kudos to them, because when the pressure's on, with their expertise and the training that they've had, it's obvious when you look at body cams after something happens, or in the response from EMS when there's something major that has happened, you can tell by the quality of what the outcome is. So, once again, everyone is invited. All you have to do is just call, and we'll, you can call, you can start with the mayor, you can call me, you can call the chiefs, or you can just stop in and they will take you for a ride.
All right, thank you, Mr. Popham.
I-
Yes, Mr.
I just wanted to comment on that, Greg, and you can let them know that maybe it's such a secret that we don't know so much is because they do such a fine job of both departments, you know, that it's not obvious of how,
But there's this, there are
Crazy it
just
is out
things
there.
that go on.
oh,
that
absolutely.
It's hard to, I mean,
Yeah.
maybe if you watch television and you're, you know, it's like, wow, that's really something, and it's, you'd be amazed what's going on right at, you know,
Yeah.
2 blocks away from
But
you.
definitely kudos, and I'll definitely do that. It's been some years since I got to do the
You
tours.
need to
and
do
the-
that.
Yeah.
I wanna get back out there and do that again.
And just as an example, a couple of weeks ago, the one shift run 17, 18 calls in a shift, and the next shift, they ran 4. So, I mean, no rhyme or reason, it just, they just go from call after call, to then the next day, they have a hard time with all the lack of the calls. They're just not used to that, so. But once again, everyone's invited.
All right, thank you, Mr. Popham. Beth is not here this
I have
evening.
one question for the
Yes,
safety
Mr.
director. With the lights at Harry Clever gonna be down for 90 days, is that gonna affect anything with your, like, light flights and things like that coming in that you're gonna have to make accommodations for
I wouldn't.
through the paramedics, or are you
I
gonna be
would think they
okay?
would be able to, they can adjust for all that, and
Okay,
there's either alternatives or a slight adjustment that might.
living out
need
that
to
way,
be
I
made.
hear them when they come in, so I wondered if it was gonna affect that at
Yeah.
all.
No, and, I mean, that's one of those that, you know, as long as they know that, you know, that is down,
That they have to find an
there's just an
alternative site.
alternative.
Great.
Anyone else? All right, thank you, Mr. Popham. Mrs. Gundy is not here this evening. Treasurer, Mr. Gerber.
No report at this time.
All right, the law director is excused this evening. We'll move into our commission reports. Planning Commission, Mayor Day.
Yes, Mr. President, the Planning Commission will be meeting tomorrow. As I noted in my mayor's report, Wendy Mueller, Compass Point Planning, will be unveiling the first draft of the complete revision of the city's zoning and planning codes. And tomorrow's meeting, this is something she's been working on for over a year. updating the codes to meet with modern land uses and standards. And tomorrow's 1 PM meeting will be recorded. It'll be posted on the city's YouTube channel. And if you're not able to make the meeting, you can watch it there. And I appreciate any feedback from you on it.
All right. All right, thanks. Move on to Board of Zoning Appeals, Mr. McAbeer.
Thank you, Mr. President. Board of Zoning Appeals will meet tomorrow evening at 5 PM here in council chambers with 2 variance requests to be heard. And I did fail to talk about the paving list. Everybody take a look at it. And probably be in the middle of June. Newton Asphalt did receive the winning bid for that, and I'll have updates of when they will be starting in future council meetings. But if there's any questions after that, feel free to email me.
All right, thank you. Airport Commissioner, Mr. Lanzer.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Airport Commission will be meeting tomorrow evening at 6 PM at the Harry Cleaver Airport in the airport meeting room.
All right. Park Board, Mr. Pace.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a quick report for this evening. The Field 8 softball dugouts, they've got the block up today, and I think record time. It took about 3 hours to get both of those up. So those should be done by the end of the week. All the fields were full this evening, so baseball and softball's in full swing. And then, last but not least, the trout derby's only 2 weeks away on April 27th. So check out the new Philadelphia Trout Derby page to get more information. That's all I have for this
All right,
evening.
thank you, Mr. Pace. Health Board, Mr. Zimmerlich.
Health Board, thank you, Mr. President. Health Board meets Wednesday at noon in this meeting, in this room.
All right. We're moving to our council committee reports. Finance, Mr. Rippeth.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no report tonight.
All right. Public Works and Economic Development, Mr. Lanzer.
Thank you, Mr. President. No report this evening.
All right. Safety, Health, and Service, Mr. Simmelink.
No report tonight, thank you, Mr. President.
All right. Cheryl's excused tonight, so we'll move into salary, Mr. Cranbill.
Thank you, Mr. President. No report this evening.
All right. Cemetery Committee, Mr. Pace.
Thank you, Mr. President. No report.
All right. And Contact and Special, Mr. Walker.
Thank you, Mr. President. No report this evening.
All right. Hey, we're there as visitors' comments. Floor is now open for visitors' comments. Anyone wishing to address council should rise, state your name and address, and address all comments to the chair. You'll have 5 minutes, and also you'll only be able to speak once. One time you get 5 minutes. So anyone wishing to address council this evening, we need to go to the podium.
Good evening. I'm Mike Barnett. I live at 445 East High Avenue, New Philly, right down the street. And I'm here this evening just to see what you all are thinking or what you're planning with the bike trail down East High Avenue. East High is probably one of the most busy streets in New Philly. And it's about a 2.5-mile stretch from Beaver Avenue to University Drive. And I'm not sure that, since most of you probably do not drive that street that often, understand what people riding their bicycles, what they might be running into. And since I'm probably the only one in this room that can say that they have actually been hit by a car and survived it, I fully understand and have continued thought of the safety of people on that street. On the street, we have now brine trucks that travel between 2:30 in the morning, and they travel until late at night, and they're going in each direction, and they're semis, basically, is what they are, and they move quickly down the street, and I think because of the fact it's a straight stretch, from Beaver Avenue all the way to University Drive, everybody goes fast. That's the way it is. And I guess that I just want to be clear that people understand that if a tragedy should happen, it's the people that lived on the street and allowed it, and all of us in this room, that maybe we need to rethink that there should be a better location to take it down. Maybe, you know, run down Fair Avenue on one direction and run back Fair Avenue on another, somehow, something like that. That might be helpful to get people on bicycle to the university. I'm not real clear what that's all about, because my family's run into university students for many years, and they all drive. They have cars. They don't ride their bicycles. So it's just some thought from me and you know, my story, what happened to me a few years ago. And that's it, and thank you. And
All right, thanks, Mike.
This is to help you keep you under the 5-minute time limit.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You weren't kidding, it literally is a book.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Jill. Jill, can we get one from Marvin too? I'll put it in his mailbox, thanks.
I'll see, sure.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, if you can, yeah. Thank you.
All right, Jill White, Martinelli Pools. And this is having to do with the continuation of the Ohio Erie Canal lands and properties. So I know we had them, meetings on them here recently, over the last month. And you guys had taken a vote and went ahead and passed unanimously to have them rezoned before all the investigation was done. So, and I know that council had made the comment that if the documentation came, that they could perhaps look at reversing what was said back then and the votes and things like that. So I have done a lot of research. I still have a lot more to do, but I wanted to give you what I had at this time, and I was asked to come and speak here by actually members of council. Okay? So I'm not going through the entire book. I'm going to go through the outlines, and I've given you all the supporting documents behind them for you to review. So the summary is parcel number ONE-TAUS 1739.2618. That is the deed that was gifted from the state of Ohio to the city of New Philadelphia, and it shows that the importance of the land being kept for public use, and through the documentation of the city's legal obligations, the effect on the long-established businesses, and the consequences to the city, people, and the land that is sold. We're presenting solutions that will help with both the city and its people. Will also be covered through the city and state codes as well in this. So the governor's deed, if you look at the supporting paperwork, you'll see on January 2nd of 2024, the Planning Commission began discussions on the rezoning and selling of the parcel with the belief that the city owned the land and could be auctioned off. In order to do this, we were told the parcels in question needed to be resized and to be rezoned in order for them to be auctioned off. Surrounding businesses were not notified, which we all know that night, that's behind us. At the time, several of the business owners raised concerns as to the amount of research that was being done on these parcels. Over the years, several business owners have tried to purchase the land. For years, we've been told we can't do that because it's owned by the canals and it's restricted property, and that this could not be done. However, although this was told to us that we weren't looking at selling the land perhaps, You weren't sure what you were doing with it at this point. You were just working on rezoning it. However, the minutes from the mayor's report on February 26th and the report that was sent to the Times Reporter on March 19th both states that the property was scheduled to be auctioned off and sold. That is the intent. Selling of the property. So Marvin Fayette did send me a letter, and it's sitting here in your supporting documents as well, stating that he does use the Ohio Revised Code, is what you guys use to recognize then for the selling of city property. He recognizes code 721.03. So he did not put in 721.01, which states that the properties can be sold besides being auctioned off. Recognized inside of 721.03 is ordinance 721.28, which says it can be sold straight out for urban renewal and development, which I think we qualify for. It also says in 721.29, it can be sold to commissioners as well and handled that way. Looking to the future of the city and the continued development of creating healthy, usable public space for this parcel, connecting it to the Erie Towpath Trail and the historical Lock 13, additionally, and all of your kayak ramps that you've already got installed going down the river. I think it's still in the best interest to continue this path that was been planned for the last over 50 years for this land so that it doesn't start to deteriorate. I mean, right now, all of us have been taking care of the land for over 50 years. Nobody sent you a bill for plowing it, filling in potholes, mowing, anything else. All the landowners have agreed to take care of it, and we've been doing this for over 50 years. Then, rezoning and sizing. It was brought up at the last meeting that the reason for the rezoning sizes was that it had to be 50 foot. I'm going to call it to your attention that it might be a typographical error, but right now your ordinances, codified ordinances, if you go into residential, it does state that it has to be 50 foot. Hands down, residential has to be. However, I have enclosed the entire section for business. Nowhere in business does it state that it has to be any certain length. It gives you the setbacks for the distance from the roads, the distance from the sides, the distance from the back, but there is nothing to state what it is to be in lineal feet going across the property line. It does state that it can be sized to the adjacent properties. That doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be the properties across the street from there on the canal. You also have adjacent properties that butt right up against to it that are less than 50 feet. I ask that you take all of that in consideration if you do move forward. Variances. I understand that, yes,
5 minutes is up.
I only have one more page.
Okay, all right.
Variances. So on variances, I understand that I, because I don't own the property, cannot ask for a variance. However, we would like to ask the city that if you do move forward, that you do consider putting in a variance there for the right-of-way, whether it's a roadway, alleyway to connect into the dead end street, our driveways, so that the businesses can still continue to operate. There's enough land there, I think, that you could still do either one. Your next one is your proposals, and we've listed 3. The first one being continue to leave the properties the way they have been used for the last 50 years. The next, obviously rezoning it, selling it, and doing what you need to. And the third, which I would also like to see happen, either 1 or 2, is to use it for the towpath, which is what the state originally wanted it to be used for, which was public use. The last section is for this council. You're going to be getting a lot more of these due to the fact you're rezoning the whole city. And I've observed from the last several meetings I've been at, the lack of being able to communicate with the general public. A lot of what is here probably wouldn't even move forward had people just given me a simple answer as to why it has to be auctioned off, or why we can't do 50-foot parcels, or why we can't, different things. And they were all at your fingertips. Had you given the general public and myself a general answer as to what rules and ordinances, this would have probably never progressed to where it is. And I also want to make council aware that the deed, the front of this book, is sitting on the governor's desk of the state of Ohio. We pushed it that far. They are looking into it. And as far as I know right now, based on talking to one of his staff members, it is upholding. And they have no problem taking it back if the city's going to push that far.
All right, thank you. Like I said, you've given us a lot of good information for council and administration to look at, so thank you for your research.
I'm David Hipp, 705 East High Avenue, which the last few months has become a high crime area if you pay attention to what's going on out there. I'm not going to talk about that. I just want to follow up with what Mike Barnett said about the bike path. I know that the council has been considering this for some time. There's been a lot of discussions, and I haven't really paid a whole lot of attention to it other than your intent to do that, which I think bike paths are great. But the question I had, and it maybe have been considered, the city has the right-of-way on the Ray Avenue extension from Beaver all the way out to about 8th or 9th Street. That's all open and can be used for any recreational purpose. The bike path could be run across then Ray Avenue extension where it picks up there to about 10th or 11th, I've forgotten now which street, where you could come up one block back to East High Avenue. It would avoid all the issues of the parking problems, the traffic problems on East High Avenue from wherever Beaver is, where Beaver starts out, where I think you want to start the trail or the bike path out to past where the House of Baskets used to be, where you do have marked bike paths on the side of the road going each direction. So just the question is, has it been considered to use that Beaver Avenue extension free area right along Beaver Creek, Beaver Dam Creek, all the way out to 10th or so, and picking up the trail out to Kent State or wherever it's going to go? The only thing I wanted to add.
I appreciate you guys coming and speaking tonight, but this legislation was passed in October. We've already discussed, the towpath and all that stuff coming through town, the bike trail, and it was approved to go after the grant. So tonight, in the last meeting, we're talking about approval of the grant. So, we've already had this discussion, council has already been approved by council.
Yeah, I understand, and I knew that there had been long discussions. Maybe about a year or so ago, I had brought up to a meeting where the city was involved about using using the land along Beaver Dam Creek as a bike path. I don't know if it was discussed. I assumed it was discussed, but I just simply wanted to bring up that information to back up what Mike said about the concern about the traffic.
All right, thank you, Dave. Anyone else?
It might be a little too late, but I'll go for it anyway.
Sure.
I just actually heard about this recently. My name is Marlena Allen. I live at 467 East High Avenue. And I wanted to back up what the rest of the folks have stated about the concerns, particularly for me, at the parking issues. We have events along through there from time to time. Many people do. We have yard sales in the summertime. We have had issues with parking before, but we always try to make sure they don't park on my side of the road, because if cars have to go past people that are parked there, they have to go over into the other side. But they can park on the side across the street from us. And that's been a blessing to have that. When most of us have very limited parking in the driveways. Some of us can get 3 or 4 cars in, others are blessed to have maybe 5 or 6 cars in the driveway. So when special events are happening and the street parking is very, very important. That's my main concern. And then the fact that what David mentioned about the use of the Beaver Creek, it seems like to me it would be much more pleasant for people to be riding pleasantly along a creekside than having to go down the middle, a street where cars are buzzing by constantly, and that's a major concern, so that's mine.
All right, thank you, Ms. Allen. Anyone else?
My name is Dale Burke. I live at 1003 Ray Avenue Northeast. I have to submit tonight, first of all, I'll be submitting a petition with 238 more signatures to add to the 174 that I submitted back in March of, again, ministers, businesses, residents, and people from outside this city that come into this city to spend their money in our businesses in this town. So I will be submitting that, but I wanted to talk briefly tonight. You know, we've talked about the different reasons for the DORA initiative and what some people view as positives for that. And the one thing that's been missing from all the discussions so far, and this takes it into a whole different realm, is the moral principles of an initiative like this and what it's going to do to our city. And our city, again, I reiterate from the last time I talked that our city is a family-oriented city. This initiative does nothing to promote that atmosphere in this city. It basically is just going to encourage more alcohol consumption in our town, and I don't think it's a right fit. And as the gentleman, when he prayed tonight, he prayed for God's wisdom in everything that we think about and everything that we discuss in these chambers. And I think if you think about that particular phrase, God's wisdom, I think you would find that it would not match up with the DORA initiative. And I just think that, again, in my opinion, and a lot of other people's opinion, it's a wrong fit for our town. We should be known as a family town and let all the other towns be known for having the DORA. So, thank you for your time.
Sure. You got your petition
Yeah.
to Mr. Walker? All right, thank you. All right, anyone else?
Elizabeth Hipp, 705 East High Avenue, and in support of what Michael and David and Marlena said, as a parent of one time small kids, we were always looking for somewhere to take the kids on their bikes. East High definitely is not a place that I think most young families are going to take their kids. Kids are, you know, tend to look around. It is very busy, as they said. Some of the cars that are coming off of Front Street, we have some really hot cars that live down that way with the loud mufflers and stuff. When they come off of Front Street onto East High, they're going through their gears, you know, fast. And they see that straight stretch, and so they are moving quickly. We have the brine trucks that are constant back and forth. And we have a lot of farm implements that go that way because we have the, you know, the fields out that way. And they kind of take almost the center line to get through, which is understandable. They do need to move their equipment. But with a bike path on the one side, which would be the north side, and that would be the side that we all live on, that lane is much smaller than the one on the other side, which is where those cars are allowed to park. And with a parking lane, or with a bike lane on both sides, it really narrows the one that is on the north side. And my concern, basically, neither my husband nor I are opposed to a bike path. We are all for it. But being on East High, and it has nothing to do with parking on our case, because we have parking in the back. So that's not my issue. My biggest issue is the safety of families that have young children on bikes. It's just not the best environment for them to be having a fun afternoon. And we are, as he said, family-oriented community, and we would like to keep it that way. And truthfully, I don't have any idea where you could put the bike path, but we are for a bike path somewhere. But it has to be somewhere that's accessible to families, because they're not gonna be able to load up 4 or 5 bikes in their car and to, go somewhere else. But if we could just find somewhere that most of the people in the city could get to by riding their bikes to that area safely. And as he said, not many Kent State students are riding their bikes between town and Kent State. Along the creek is very nice because you have the water and the ducks. And so again, that's a family thing. But I just wanted to bring the point back to the safety issue of that street. And I know other people in other parts of the city are all, trying to squash the idea of the bike path, but safety should be the first thought of families on it. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, we'll move on to council comments. Any councilman comments this evening?
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Pace.
I believe the legislation for this current bike path was passed in 2021.
Yes, it was 20, I'm sorry, yes, 20.
Mr. Mayor, when they drew the map for the bike path, were other options looked at?
Yes.
And who did that? It's the Ohio Erie
No,
Canal?
this is ODOT.
ODOT.
This is an ODOT project.
And that, East High was their best
Right.
option?
It's a continuation of what they've done from 13th Street to the KSU Founder's Entrance,
Okay.
with the gateway entrance.
Which they are also funding the vast majority of, correct?
Correct.
All right, we'll move into legislative agenda. Ms. Courtright.
Resolution number 6, 2024, the following final resolution enacted by the City of New Philadelphia, Ohio, hereinafter referred to as the Legislative Authority Local Public Agency, or LPA, in the matter of the stated described project and declaring an emergency, second reading.
Is there any action to be taken by council on this resolution tonight?
Yes.
Mr. Alonso,
Yes, Mr. President, I ask that we suspend the rules on Resolution 6, 2024.
do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, thank you, Mr. Pace. Discussion by administration, council, roll call.
Mr.
Sorry,
Lund.
Mr. President.
Oh.
I wanted to add something. I believe Councilman Pace has added back in 21, if my memory serves me correct. It had come out of Mr. Ricklick's committee that night. Voted unanimously to come out of committee, take it to the floor that night, emergency first reading, and it was unanimous and it was a full council that night. All 7 voted unanimously to move this project forward. Right now with this project, we have $252,000 of grant money used at this point for design and engineering. With that, on the 21st, in 2021, when that was passed, that was the commitment to do it. This ordinance here is just to say the line items that this money's coming out of, that all of it is. This is ODOT dotting the i's and crossing the t's. I'm sure that if we did not want to do this project, we could pay back the $252,000 of grant money. But why would we do that when we have $361,000 in a complete project to get it completed? That's all I have.
All right, thank you. All right, we got a motion and a second to suspend the rules. Roll call.
Mr. Lonzer?
Yes.
Mr. Pace?
Yes.
Mr. Kreinbell?
Yes.
Mr. Rippet?
Yes.
Mr. Simmelink?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
All right, rules have been suspended. Entertain a motion now. Mr. Lonzer?
Yes, Mr. President, I move that we pass Resolution 6, 2024.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, thank you, Mr. Pace. In discussion by community, council, or the administration, council, roll call.
Mr. Lonzer?
Yes.
Mr. Pace?
Yes.
Mr. Kreinbell?
Yes.
Mr. Rippet?
Yes.
Mr. Simmelink?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
All right, resolution 6, 2024 has passed.
And that concludes legislation for this evening, Mr.
All right,
President.
thank you, Ms. Courtwright. Is there any unfinished road business for tonight's council meeting? Any new business for the council meeting tonight? Hearing none, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Mr. President.
All right, we adjourned at 8:15 PM. Thank you, everyone.